So hello, good afternoon. It's the three of us between you and Gin, so we're going to make it good. Good afternoon, my name is Hannah Bryden. I'm responsible for North Europe accounts for Delphix, and it's my very great pleasure to introduce you to our speakers from Virgin Money, Kirsteen and Nicola. So, as with the rest of the teams, let's start with some introductions. So first to you, Kirsteen.
Hi everyone, my name's Kirsteen McSkimming and I'm a quality engineering chapter lead, so I'm responsible for the test automation strategy. I also look after the automation testers. In addition to that, I am leading up the Delphix initiative at the moment within the bank and setting up the new test data as a service team. So I've been with the bank since I was a graduate. I was an IT graduate and I've basically spent most of my career within quality assurance. So I've done things like environment management, test leading, test architecture, and now I'm currently a quality engineering chapter lead.
Thank you. And Nicola, you and your role, please.
Hi, I'm Nicola Foy. I've also been at the bank for a number of years, currently look after mastering of customer data and the customer tribe. Actually a DBA to trade, a real techie. I like to get in and about. There were some screens there earlier I wanted to go touch. Yeah. Test architect and environment management.
So, Kirsteen, a question for you about Virgin Money. I think many folk will be familiar with the brand. Everybody knows Virgin, but I'd love for you to be able to describe a bit about the brand and particularly what makes Virgin Money so unique in a crowded market space.
So some people might not actually know that Virgin Money behind the scenes is actually an amalgamation of three banks, the Clydesdale Bank, the Yorkshire Bank, and what was Northern Rock as well. So basically, Virgin Money is a purpose-led digital bank, and our purpose is to make our customers happy about money. So really, the customer requirements are at the heart of everything we do. And as colleagues, we're really empowered to live the values. We're empowered to make decisions for the benefit of the customer and also to disrupt the status quo and do things a little differently. Ultimately, the objective of Virgin Money is to be a leading digital-first bank.
But with the complexities of the heritage
the
that
legacy
you've got
banks,
behind you. So it'd be really helpful now to understand some more about, for each of your teams, the roles that your teams play within the business.
Yeah, so I lead up the quality engineers. The quality engineers are really responsible for embedding quality within our engineering teams and within the squad, so they really drive the test requirements. Another thing that they do is they're responsible for automation as well, automating all the tests that they perform. And then from the test data services perspective, it's a brand new team that's going to support the Delphix solution going forward, and their main responsibility is to provision secure data across our non-production environments, both in development and tests. And they're also got a focus on automating the provisioning of the data across environments as well.
Okay, thank you. And then Nicola, you've been one of the beneficiaries of the work that Kirsteen and the team are doing.
We take our services. That sounded horrible. I work in the data area, and we deliver application changes, but really on the back end systems primarily, and more recently on sort of front end applications, but looking after the databases and the batches that would run overnight in a bank. So we've got two squads of engineers who basically create a master set of customer data. We've talked about these legacy banks. We've had numbers of sets of customer data, bringing that together so that we can actually create a customer record and treat that person as an individual, and developing, changing that area and trying as safely as possible to get that change into a production environment.
We've talked a lot during the course of today about the role of governance and the importance of taking care of customer data, particularly in regulated industries such as financial services. And so I'm interested in how your team, Nicola, has been affected by changes in privacy and compliance regulations.
The regulations are always there, as they should be for banks, and we're really accustomed to working in that sort of space where we know that they're there. But the policies and the vision that we have at Virgin Money really is to put the customer at the heart of everything that we do. And you'll hear conversations in my team all the time. Very rarely would you hear anybody saying, oh, regulation X means we have to do Y. What they will say is, that's my data. I bank with this organisation. I don't want lots of that lying about. I want you to treat every customer here as if as if they're me. So the regulations are there and they're really important, but we're driven to transform and to do things better because we want that experience as customers ourselves.
Yeah, you were going to be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Kirsteen, you talked about becoming a digital-first bank. So please could you explain to us what led to that programme and a little bit about the approach that you're taking?
Yeah, so I guess in today's market, to keep competitive, we need to drive change into production quickly. So traditionally, Virgin Money operated a kind of waterfall development life cycle. So we have large monolithic end-to-end test environments that are really complicated. And generally, we only have like 5 or 6 releases a year. Because they're so complex and there's loads of handoffs in terms of when we refresh the environments, it leads to the environments stagnating. They're not like updated very often. So when we do, it takes a long time. It can take from 3 to 6 months to actually refresh our environments using mass data copy. So at the moment, the bank's going through a massive transformation, both in terms of the way we work. So they're doing an agile ways of working transformation. We're moving away from that waterfall development life cycle to adopt more agile ways of working, really embedding the business within the teams to drive the business requirements. So we're getting closer with the business. And also we're looking at doing things quicker and smarter and more repeatable. So we're adopting more automation as well. So there's a big focus on test automation and automating our data provisioning and automating the provision of our test environments as well. So another thing that we're changing at the moment is all our environments are on-prem, but there's a big focus on moving a lot of our estate into the Azure cloud as well. So hopefully, when we move along this journey, we'll be able to accelerate the changes and make them go quicker into production.
Nicola, I've got a question for you. It's about your pet topic. So, I know when we talk about application modernisation, often people are associating initiatives such as replatforming or cloud native, those types of patterns, but they don't necessarily always think about data. And so, my question to you was about what role do you see data playing in this initiative?
It's really funny because data doesn't immediately come out, I think, when you talk about transformation and they talk about you can change these processes, you can develop things much faster and you can get speed to market, and that works for like UI type applications. You can manufacture your data. If you look at the likes of a bank or a large scale organisation where you've got masses of data in the back end, that transformation's a little bit more difficult, so I don't think it always gets the focus. Data is complex and it's different. But I think what we've kind of found on this journey is it's hard, but you can get there, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I think for me, the key thing about data, especially in large organisations that have maybe got what we would call batches, where things run overnight. If you're a customer and you're going to get a statement sent out to you, clearly that kind of processing's not happening during the day. These things happen overnight. There are specific points in time, and I think, Kirsteen, you were talking there about the environments and the scale of them. But it's not necessarily about having 5 applications or 5 databases. It's having 5 databases that are completely aligned so that you can run a test that adds value.
To a very particular point in time.
Yeah, you'll have regulations that run at month end. These were things we've traditionally struggled with, and they take a long time to get a set of data in a test environment to a particular point in time, ready for you to maybe execute a particular test of something that you're changing.
And one of the conversations we'd had previously was it's not that data's not recognised as being important, it was just that historically it wasn't possible to be as aligned as the team wants to be.
We just could not. We could not see. We wanted to transform. We wanted to make that change, but how? How do you make that change? Where are the next steps on that journey? And the methods that we had looked at were going to make it easier, but they were going to put a tremendous pressure on staff and key skilled staff to be able to execute those processes on a regular basis to give us environments that were fit for purpose at the right point in time. And a key thing is not to have what we would call toxic data in it, where we would have environments that could be the best maintained environments in the world, but if you've executed tests on them, some of those tests will have failed. And by nature, you will have data in your test environments that you never find in production because it's a result of failed tests.
So Kirsteen, there's been a common theme during the course of today around, on the one hand, businesses under extremely high levels of pressure to be able to innovate faster, but on the other hand, that's the team from Sky were talking about go faster but at lower cost. And we've had a lot of conversations around and the need to protect data in the same breath. So, and the same has come up in our conversations as well. So my question for you was, how have you been approaching the challenge, and then where does Delphix come in?
So I guess a few years ago, we really wanted to look for a tool that will help us provision and refresh our environments quickly, and to help empower people to be able to do that themselves. Just now, there's so many people we have to go through to get a copy of production and mask it and whatnot. So a few years ago, we did some extensive evaluation of the products available on the market. And Delphix was selected. It was the tool that best met our requirements, especially because we have to have consistent masking across different technologies, such as the mainframe, Oracle, SQL Server. A lot of the other tools didn't provide that, so we selected Delphix on that basis, on the basis that it will empower teams to self-service their own data. We'll also be able to consistently mask across multiple different platforms, and we could do it quickly. So what's the other part of the question?
No, that's all good. The next part of the question was going to, for Nicola, when did you and your team come into the picture?
So Kirsteen's talked about this roadmap that we were on, and she's obviously come along, and they've got this grand plan. We've selected Delphix. They are the tool of choice. I think you said earlier it exceeded your categories that you were going to map this on. So the data area we've talked about, and I work primarily in what we call data solutions. It was on the plan, but it was in the later stages of the plan. But at the tail end of last year, we were backs to the wall in real trouble on a particular project that had been running for a long time. And when you're in trouble, you reach out to your friends, and I knew what Kirsteen was working on. And I thought that there was maybe a chance that she could provision some databases for me. How big an ask is that? You Teams message somebody saying, can you help? We're stuck. We're really, there was millions of pounds at stake on licence fees if we could not complete this migration by the tail end of last year. And my boss is saying to me, is there nothing else you can do? And I'm saying, let me go and talk to Kirsteen. Let me see if there's anything. And her and our team member at that time, Alan, said, yeah, okay. Now, we needed 6 databases, all at a very specific point in time about tax regulations. So we need them, say, 2 o'clock in the morning. We need those 6 databases. Can you get that? How quickly can you get that for me? And within a couple of days, they had all 6 ready for us to go. So I've walked into my team meeting. They're thinking we're about to pay this licence fee. That they failed, for want of a better word. We haven't succeeded. We're going to have to push this to next year. And I've said, it's all right, guys. Kirsteen's getting us some Delphix databases. And I've got to be honest, they looked at me like, here she goes again. They've said to me since then, oh, we know you love an experiment, but that day we were ready to kill you. And my environment manager said to me, and she literally, toys out the pram moment, I can't do this. We've had enough, I'm done. And I said, that comes back to being a techie. Come on, let's go out the room, gather 2 or 3 techies, and we sat down, and within the end of the afternoon, we had one of the databases running a batch. It's as quick as that. And now they realise, sometimes you have to take a chance if you want to make it work.
So, I mean, I don't want to move away from the story quite yet. So the outcome was?
We were able to give the business, because the big issue was the environment we were using to test was almost a year out of date. Mm-hmm. So we were asking the business to certify this major transformation, saying, here's the set when it migrates to the new system, here's the set as it is on the old system. They're the same, really, it's just that environment's a year out of date. And they couldn't see it. We were able to go to the business, and they were more than delighted, because the risk, as well as having made this and been able to not have to spend the money, the risk of the change had gone through the floor now, because we had now completed our live implementation on a test platform days before we were ready to go live.
And my understanding from when you first explained that story was that you were giving them a level of confidence that that they had not had before. So you'd been trying to get the certification in order that the decommissioning could be completed, but that was your tipping point.
Yeah, the risk was just becoming too great because there were so many factors at play. You look at our test summary report and it's saying we have these defects, but we're fairly sure that's to do with the environment, and this is not right, but that's to do with the fact that that data is old, and that one row that's failing, that's probably because that data's toxic. To go a week later to a TSR that just says, we've migrated that data, and here's the picture that you're going to get. And they were seeing the benefits of it, but we were also calming everyone down. So going from this point of 1 week, oh my goodness, we just don't know where to go, to a week later of, oh my goodness, it's not, can we go live? It's we're so much more confident in our go live than we were, 72 hours ago. It's just phenomenal.
We've been having some really interesting conversations about perception of risk, haven't we? So
Yeah.
I'd shared a short story about in a previous life at the very beginning of COVID, when I was working with a practicing clinician who was working in the field of innovation, but in children's hospitals, and his job was to release innovation faster, but it was always very difficult to do because for a different set of parameters, the perception of risk in a hospital, completely differently, but perception of risk in financial services, there was a very low tolerance for risk. And yet in those first few months, he had shared that they had been able to get so much more stuff done than he had been in the first 8 weeks of that period of the year than in the previous 5 years, just because risk used to be, if there was a scale like this that was risk, all of a sudden that scale had completely altered. And that was really resonating with how you were considering risk within the bank, I think.
I think that's the key thing, is that the risk of change is always there. We've got an existing process, it's slow, it's cumbersome, but it works, and we can get change to live and it has no impact on our customers. Right, okay, we're going to do this change. I think the key thing about this change is to start again, because a lot of our processes almost just got put aside and you do something completely different. But sometimes you need to be brave, and I think COVID taught us that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to take that step.
And how about the team now? How are they feeling about you?
It's very, very interesting, because I'm the one who gets to get into the team meeting and go, really? Really? You didn't want to make that change? They cannot get enough of it. And I think Kirsteen's team are struggling a little bit of that, because my team of about 12 people have been out singing the praises, saying how amazing this is. And when people say they can't do something, they say, well, have you asked for a Delphix database? And it's a total transformation. But all our processes have changed. The team are not only happier in what they do, but they're less stressed. Yesterday was release day. I was here. I didn't really log into my phone to see how things are going, because we stopped coding last week. We're so confident in our releases now. Our testing has shifted so far to the left. We can stop coding a week ahead of the game, put the code down, and I knew yesterday's release was going fine because we had already run it on data that was only a week old.
Yeah, great work. Kirsteen, question for yourself. We've talked about needing to increase speed of innovation. So my question for yourself was around how have you been able to increase the speed of development and innovation with your new approach?
Yeah, so as part of our transformation, we're doing a lot of test transformation. So we're running a shift left initiative. So a lot of the testing we would typically do at the end of the life cycle, like performance testing, stress testing, we're trying to bring in earlier to find defects earlier, because when you find defects earlier, it's cheaper as well. So the introduction of Delphix has allowed our developers to spin up full volume databases to run that early performance testing, and they love it. So the amount of defects that we're finding further down the line has reduced dramatically with that, which is amazing. The other thing we're trying to do is really set up our engineering teams so that they're self-sufficient. So again, Delphix comes into play through their self-service and providing the ability for the engineering teams to provision their own data. They don't need to go to the environment management team anymore to refresh their data. They can do it themselves.
And so what's next for the programme?
What's next for us is, so initially we rolled Delphix out within digital engineering, and really what we want to do now is operationalise the solution and industrialise it, because we want to make sure that the solution's stable, resilient, and easy to scale out. So we're looking at defining things like the operating model, the funding model, putting in place a test data management framework and really driving best practices. We're going to act as an enabling team as well, so that we'll have reusable test sets that the engineering team can use. And also we're going to start looking at how we can augment our mass production copies with synthetic and manufactured data, because everyone knows you need to test on both. You can't just test on manufactured data or production data. You need to have both to really kind of hit all your test coverage. So we're in the process just now of setting up a centre of excellence. And from there, we're going to really define our backlog and our roadmap to scale Delphix out across the enterprise. So just now it's digital, but we want to roll it out to data solutions and core banking as well. We also want to look at using Delphix to help migrate to the clouds when we get to that position as well, and to help drive our engineering excellence in terms of the automation we do. So Delphix will play a big part in our engineering pipelines in terms of spinning up environments, provisioning the data before we automatically run the tests. So that's key. Big plans, big plans.
Very exciting plans. And I'm going slightly off piece now, so, bear with me. But what I was thinking through when you were describing what's coming up next is that I've been spending time during the course of today with some customers that have been customers of ours for years, and then some folk that are relatively new to Delphix. And so the question that I had for you was around pitfalls, and with the benefit of hindsight, are there factors that you'd recommend thinking about from an earlier stage, or any recommendations that you might make on that front to somebody?
Could you not say don't help your friends when they're in trouble?
I guess the big thing for me is maybe running before we can walk. So as soon as we introduced Delphix, the news travelled fast on the benefits of it. Information security caught wind of the fact that we've got this new cool tool that can mask our test environments. So basically they were cutting down on the use of live data in tests and making all projects get mass copies using Delphix. So there's actually a lot of demand coming into the team at the moment, and we can't supply that demand. So really we want to take a step back to say, where are we just now? Let's operationalise that. Where do we want to get to, and what do we need to put in place to get to where we want to go?
Yeah, good advice, thank you. So taking a different tack, tech talent we've been discussing. So it's increasingly difficult. It's a common conversation with customers that I'm working with. And so as women in technology, what approaches, Nicola, do you feel work best for businesses to attract, advance and retain women in technology roles?
Well, I'll go with the funny answer first. There's always a set of GHDs in the office if there's one
no.
there. Yeah.
We'll have that.
It's funny because I think when we were talking about this, IT's for everybody. It's such a flexible job to work in. We are really, really fortunate. Virgin Money operates a policy of something called a life more Virgin, and that really is about embedding your work into your life and not building your life around this work that you have to do every day. It is very much purpose driven. It is about an outcome that we have a release to deliver, and how we deliver that is not about who sat at their desk at what points of the day. I mean, it really is for everybody who wants flexibility in their life, whether you need that. And that flexibility can change over time. You might want to do a school run today, and I think you're using some examples of people who want to go to yoga classes at 11 in the morning, or there's just something for everybody in it.
Yeah, no, we did, because we were working with a colleague of yours, and he used to do the Delphix call at 9:30 on a Friday, and then when it was snowy, he went off and did some cross-country skiing. So, and I went on my next call. But Kirsteen, have you seen the strategy, or that strategy of living a life more virgin, manifesting itself in practice? Apart from the examples we just were sharing.
Yeah, so what we're finding is a far more diverse workforce, so diverse in terms of thought leadership, but also it breaks down the barrier in terms of where you work as well. So we do a lot of home working still. It's not mandated that you come in the office, so it means that we can now employ people that live far away. So yeah, there's loads of diversity, I would say, now within the
and when we discussed that previously, it was about the points of view and the way that you can challenge one another in the diversity of thought as much as anything else.
Yeah, so you get different solutions and different opinions and things like that. Yeah,
it's very interesting to see it in the customer calls, that diversity of location coming across. and different opinions from different places in the country, people that are norms all across. And it is going to inform a much better customer journey and makes it easier for us to develop solutions.
Yeah. Thank you. So, coming towards some closing comments, I'd really love to understand from yourself, Kirsteen. You talked a little bit about the pitfalls, but any best practices that you might also recommend about organisations that are just embarking on their transformation journeys?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of best practices, I mean, we're really at the start of our journey, and that's something that we want to be kind of focusing on going forward. But Delphix has really revolutionised how we operate as a business, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to expand throughout the organisation and how we're going to take it forward. So my recommendation is to go for it. If you were ever contemplating purchasing Delphix, go for it. It's definitely made a big benefit in our company. There's a wee bit of work that we still need to do to make it a bit sleeker in terms of getting all our systems on board and things like that, and looking at the kind of infrastructure. But we're looking forward to that journey and putting it in place and making it real.
What about the art of the possible? So you yourself and Nicola, you'd explained about a course that you'd gone on some time ago, and you'd set out a 5-year plan. Interested in what you were envisaging you could achieve and where you're up to.
Yeah, so I guess 5 years ago, we used to run batches on a, monthly basis, if that. So we'd envisioned a plan to be able to refresh our environments more frequently and run more frequent batches, even daily batches. And I know, Nicola, that's what your team now does.
When we wrote that 5-year plan, if you looked at it now, it's so outdated because what Delphix has given us, we actually couldn't even have imagined when we wrote that plan. And we've talked about this, it was a course and it was about a nutter on the hill. Somebody's going to stand up and try something different and give it a little while, and 10 more people will be standing with them. And before you know it, you'll turn round and that's the norm. And I think that's a bit about what we're experiencing right now. Kirsteen helped my team in data solutions. Now everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants a little bit of it. You will have bumps in the road, but if we can transform them, then anybody can do it.
Nicola and Kirsteen, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We really appreciate you being here, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.